If you appreciate farm fresh organic eggs, well, it's hard to beat having your own backyard chickens. With your own chickens, they produce fantastic quality eggs, probably better than you can purchase at the grocery store. I don't think it's a cost-saving measure. I think it probably ends up costing you more to raise your own chickens because they're pretty hungry, but they're super easy to take care of. All they need is food and water and some shelter. In most parts of the country, the shelter probably doesn't have to be too terribly significant, but here where I'm located, it gets pretty cold. During our winter time, we can anticipate there will be some nights where it's lower than negative 20 degrees, and we've had nights that are colder than negative 40. And so the chickens can handle temperatures down to about 20 degrees or thereabouts. They're pretty hardy, but when it gets extremely cold, I need to give them a little bit of supplemental heat to make sure that they do well. So I'd like to show you what I do to keep our chickens warm during the coldest times of the winter. So come on into the coop and I'll show you what we have set up for supplemental chicken heating. Welcome to the coop. The walls of the coop, the ceiling, are pretty well insulated. I've got a couple inches of foam insulation behind these walls and the ceiling, and there's a fair amount of chicken bedding under my feet. And in this small space, it keeps the girls pretty warm. Even just the heat coming off of their bodies keeps this space relatively comfortable most of the time. But like I had mentioned, it gets really quite cold here at some points during the winter. And so we've got some heat lamps that can give us some supplemental heat if it gets too cool in the room. And you'll notice that I have two lamps rather than just one. One lamp is more than sufficient to heat up this space and keep our girls comfortable. But I have two lamps for redundancy because I'm assured that at some point in time, one of these bulbs will fail. And I don't want the bulb to fail in the middle of the night and have our chickens get too cold. So by having two lamps, we have redundancy. So when one bulb goes down, the other one continues on and maintains the temperature in the room. Now behind the lamps, along the wall here, I've got a small temperature probe that measures the temperature inside of the room and goes to a temperature controller that operates these lights. I've got the temperature controller set so that if the temperature in this room falls below about 25 degrees, it turns the lamps on. And once the temperature reaches about 30 degrees, it turns them off. And so because these lamps are being run off of a thermostatic controller, running two lamps isn't much more expensive than running one. The two lamps will put out about twice the heat, but they'll only run for about half as long as a single lamp would. So my power consumption overall isn't that much different from running two lamps versus one, and it gives us redundancy. The temperature probe is back here, and it's outside of the direct radiation path of these bulbs, so it doesn't get erroneous readings, and it does a better job of giving me an accurate picture of the overall ambient temperature in here. And so this has been a really good solution to keep our girls comfortable throughout the winter. And I'll pull you around and let you take a quick look at the Inkbird temperature controller unit that I use to drive these lamps. If you're interested in this unit, I'll put a link down below. It's inexpensive and it's really quite flexible. It can be used for heating or cooling applications. It's a general purpose device. So this is the temperature controller. It's a real simple device that tells you what the current temperature is, what the set point is, and there's some buttons on it that let you step through the menus to make adjustments for what temperature you want it to trigger at, and how much delta, and so forth and so on, what alarm points you want. It works really well, and it's inexpensive, and you can pick it up on Amazon. It comes with a little pigtail power cord that comes out of it that allows you to plug in a device that you want to energize for heating or for cooling, and then another cord where you just plug it into the wall. It can switch, I think, about 1,000 watts, and so it's just a perfect tool for driving the heat lamps Let's take a quick closer look at that ITC-308 temperature controller from Inkbird. But before I do, I'd like to take a quick moment to just suggest that if you're enjoying this content and you'd like to be able to find this channel again easily in the future, please consider subscribing to the channel. Your actions of subscribing, tapping that thumbs up button, or continuing the conversation by adding a comment down below. All of these actions signal to YouTube to promote this channel, and I really appreciate your support. Now, the Inkbird ITC-308 temperature controller is not designed to control temperature in chicken coops necessarily. It's a universal temperature controller, and it can be used for chicken coops, but also managing aquarium temperatures or beer brewing operations or anywhere that you want to be able to control and maintain temperature. It is the ability to operate both heating or cooling devices. It has set points in it that allow you to set temperature alarms if the temperature goes too far out of bounds. It has dual relay outputs, so it can control either heating equipment or cooling equipment. So if the temperature gets too cold, it can turn on heat equipment. If the temperature gets too hot, you can use it to turn on cooling equipment. So it's a really convenient universal temperature controller. And it's a completely unified package with AC outlets built in, so there's no need to use a screwdriver or do any kind of wiring hookup. Just plug it in and plug in your heating or cooling equipment into this device. That's all you need to do. It's super easy. It's small and compact, and in my use, it's been very effective. There's also a Wi-Fi version of this device that can communicate over your existing Wi-Fi network if you have Wi-Fi signal in the area where the controller is, and that allows you to remotely operate the controller and monitor what's happening with the cell phone application. So I think that's pretty slick too. In my application, I'm not using the Wi-Fi version. I don't have Wi-Fi out by the chicken coop, but I think that's pretty neat. And so this is the ITC-308 temperature controller by Inkbird, and the one I have has been out there operating for a couple of years. It's been, in my application, completely reliable, and it's a great device, so I wanted to let you know about it. And as I had mentioned in the video, if you're interested in that temperature controller, I put a link down below where you can check it out. And so it's an inexpensive and really easy to implement solution wherever you want to have temperature control. Well, as you can see, it's pretty easy to raise your own flock of backyard chickens, and they will offer you some of the most delicious eggs ever. Like I mentioned, I don't think you're going to save money on eggs, but you will be rewarded with higher quality and the experience of having your own flock of chickens. So if you're contemplating taking that step into backyard chickens, I certainly recommend it. I think it's really rewarding. And I hope that this has given you some confidence and inspiration if you're going on that path. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got some value out of it, and I hope you come back and watch more. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you again on another episode.